Okay, here we are, turn 5, the 10th of June, and finally the Allies are getting some clear weather. 5 was rolled, sorry, 6 was actually rolled, -1 for the previous day's storm, which means we have a 5, a clear turn, and the Allies have some air support, some naval support, some supplies. It is all looking much better for now. It's a good start to the turn for them. So turn 5, the Germans go first, and they bring their reinforcements very quickly into the fight. And you can see they're plugging those gaps around St. Lo on the left there. There's not a lot they can do around Utah. They have some good defensive stacks. They don't have a lot of offensive power in this area, but they're defending some key areas quite well. They still hold some air release. There is that strong point in the north, which they're holding quite well. Further the southeast around St. Lo, they are holding key areas behind rivers and in woods quite well. There is one isolated unit just south of Bayeux, and as we look further to the east, you can see the Germans have begun to withdraw their forces from around Caberg on the coast, and they're following those roads around to move to the left, or the sort of southwest west of Caen. You can see those sort of grey units in the bottom left there are starting to move with a view to threaten that gap between Tilly-sur-Seulles and Capique, where the airfield is. In the very least, they're going to threaten the British and Canadian forces here and force them to respond. And this is because over in the east-northeast, they have a pretty good defensive position. Now they've forced the British across the canal in Ouistreham. They feel pretty confident with their defensive position there, and they have so many forces in this area that they're going to push them out over in the west there. So as it turned out, there was one German combat over near Utah. They were trying to hurt a weaker American unit, but as it turned out, with the J-Boss table and I guess decent American defense, the Germans suffered an A1 result. Learning from that mistake, they decided not to attack any further, and they just held their ground elsewhere. On the American turn, they brought in some troops at Utah, and the British brought some units over at Juno Beach. The Americans, again, can't do much around Utah. There was no rearrangement of their forces at all. Pretty happy with how things are. I mean, when I say happy, they're making the best of a bad situation. Further south, they can't really push any further, so they've tried to surround those German defences in Sinclair-sur-Lelle, and the British are trying to threaten the German forces just south of Bayeux. In the attacks that followed, there was one attack up in Utah, which went very well for the Germans. They forced a DR result, I think it was, which forced the Germans back from that strong point. And you can see just on the northern end of Utah, they've now cleared out part of that area and forced the Germans back to their strong points around Valognes and along the coast, but no other attacks in this area. Further south, they launched a very strong attack on Sinclair-sur-Lelle. It was successful. The Germans launched a determined defence and passed, but with the reduction of a step of their lead unit, which you can see there on top. Over in the British sector, they finally cleared out those German defenders in the woods south of Bayeux, which will enable them to move further south. And they managed to clear some German defenders just north of Caen, which has pushed them to the outskirts of those city hexes. So, as you can see, they've moved around to the left to confront those Germans attempting to outflank them. But they're moving further on Caen, and as you can see, they're just on the outskirts of those blue city hexes. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the 10th of June. So a few attacks, this clear weather, naval support, air support, using their artillery has it's been a change in confidence for the Allies. After the previous 2 turns of storm, this clear weather has really helped them, and they're very relieved to have some attacks going, and actually going well. Not only being able to attack, but rolling quite well in these attacks, which is renewing their confidence for this turn. So here we are then at the end of the 10th of June.